For the longest time, the smartphone game was all about one thing: numbers. More megapixels, more RAM, bigger batteries, more everything. But what if I told you that entire battlefield is shifting right under our feet? The new war, the one that's happening right now, it isn't about what's inside the phone, but the experience it creates for you.
So that brings up the big question. Is the great smartphone spec war finally coming to an end? For years, it was this relentless race to the biggest numbers. But we've kind of hit a wall, a point of diminishing returns. I mean, let's be real. Can you actually feel the difference between 12 and 16 gigabytes of RAM in your day-to-day life? Probably not. And that's exactly why brands are waking up to the fact that the old playbook, just throwing more hardware at the problem, well, it just isn't working anymore.
All right, so let's really dig into why this is happening. In this first section, we're going to explore the end of this spec war and unpack why more really isn't better anymore in this unbelievably crowded market.
This right here, this slide just nails the whole shift. Features that used to be these amazing delight factors, the stuff that made you go, wow, are now just, well, they're hygiene factors. They're expected. A 200 megapixel camera isn't a showstopper anymore. It's basically the price of entry at the high end. These specs might get a phone on your radar, but they're not going to be the reason you buy it.
And this gets to the heart of the problem for every single Android manufacturer out there. Hardware is no longer a defensible position. It's not a moat you can build around your castle. If you launch some groundbreaking new chip, your competitor can and will have something just like it in their phone 6 months later. It's created this race where it's almost impossible to build any lasting brand loyalty on specs alone.
So if hardware isn't the answer, what is? Well, that brings us to the industry's massive pivot. The experience-driven shift. The new game isn't about the moment you buy the phone, it's about everything that happens after.
The new guiding light, the new North Star for these brands, is something called the post-purchase experience. This is literally everything that happens after you open that box. How does the software feel to use? Are the features actually smart and helpful? How well does it work with your other gadgets? That collection of moments, that's what creates real long-term satisfaction and genuine loyalty. And look, you don't have to just take my word for it. This quote from a market analysis report just sums it up perfectly. While those big, flashy specs might grab your attention and, trigger the sale, it's the day-to-day experience that creates the good memories that keep you coming back to a brand, phone after phone.
So how do brands actually control this experience? Well, that leads us to probably the single most important development in the smartphone world today, the rise of the brand OS. This is their bold move to carve out a unique identity in a sea of phones that all, frankly, look and feel the same.
So let's just quickly trace how we even got here. It all started with stock Android, basically a blank canvas. Then, brands started adding custom UIs on top, which were mostly just to change the look and maybe push some ads. But now, we're in the third and most important phase, the true brand OS. Think about Nothing OS, or what OnePlus is doing with Oxygen OS. These are deep, holistic experiences designed to control everything from top to bottom.
So what's the endgame here? Why go through all the trouble of building your own OS? Well, it's about creating an experience that's not just better, but truly unique. Something that your competitors can't just copy and paste. This is how brands are trying to build an identity that goes way beyond the physical hardware and ultimately paves the way for a tribe of truly loyal customers who will stick around.
Okay, so what does all of this mean for the future? Let's take a look at how this huge shift towards software is expected to completely reshape the smartphone market by 2027, and what that means for brand loyalty as we know it. Analysts are pretty clear that this is going to roll out in waves. Starting around 2026, we'll really see this take hold in the premium luxury market. Then, by 2027 and beyond, it's going to trickle down to the more affordable mass market phones. The end goal here is to create a more stable market where your choice of phone is about more than just the latest chip. It's about buying into an entire ecosystem you believe in. And this chart here really drives that point home. In the past, the Android market has been incredibly volatile. You see brands shoot to the top of the charts and then just disappear a year later. But as these brand-specific software ecosystems start to mature, the prediction is that we'll see way more stability, with brands finally building those long-term, loyal customer bases.
So if you take away just one thing from this whole explainer, let it be this. The smartphone battlefield has fundamentally shifted. This is no longer a war of chipsets and megapixels. The new frontier, the new fight, is over the software ecosystem. And the winner is going to be the brand that creates the most compelling, unique, and useful user experience.
And that really brings us to the final crucial question for you to think about. As software becomes the thing that defines the brand, which ecosystem is going to win your loyalty? It's a choice that's so much bigger than just the device in your hand. It's about which digital world you actually want to live in. The smartphone wars are far from over. They've just entered a new and honestly, a much more interesting phase.